All right, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. I know we have people joining from all over the globe. So good morning to some of you as well. So excited to have you all here. I'm Avery Bradford here with Female Founder Collective. And before I introduce today's guest, who's the co-founder of Female Founder Collective, I just wanted to make a note that typically these conversations and events are behind a paywall. They're within a community, which is called the 10th House. And it's a private membership community. And Female Founder Collective and the 10th House, they open up cohorts about every 2 months that are very industry specific. So if you are within fashion, accessories, beauty, wellness, I would love for you to keep an eye out because we are going to be opening up cohort for those industries very soon. I've dropped a link in the chat already about how you can learn more about the 10th House, but inside of the 10th House, you get things like networking events, in-person events. You can get access to educational opportunities, introductions to investors through our pitch events. We have people within the community who are experts within different fields who maybe can help you set up a podcast or launch your personal brand, hire your next CFO or creative director. It's a really great place for brands that are starting out or who have maybe hit a plateau. So if you are looking for education, resources, really tactical information that's going to help you make more money and scale your business, check out the 10th House. And we're introducing Founders Operating Manual, which is a 4-week program that you can either purchase on its own or as a part of your membership. And this is 4 weeks of deep dive modules into the foundational information that you need to scale a business. These are the things that if you don't have this information, it's going to be pretty hard to make it to the 3, the 5, the 10-year mark. Things like building your KPI dashboards and your personal branding, your go-to-market strategies, even if you're on a lean budget. Hiring roadmaps, where you should be delegating your time as the company scales. Really things that, like I said, are going to make a difference long term. So join the waitlist for those cohorts using the links that I've dropped in the chat. And as I mentioned at the top, Rebecca Minkoff, our guest today, is the co-founder of Female Founder Collective, and that's not all. We actually had a session with Rebecca about a week and a half ago, and due to life, travel, family, friends,
I'm so sorry, everybody.
We had just a couple of technical difficulties. So we're doing a part 2, and this part 2 is all about you. So every single question that I'm asking today is a question that you sent in. Typically for these events, we're doing a lot of deep dive research into the nuance, twists and turns of people's career and diving into things that maybe the audience doesn't even know. But we're doing things a little bit differently today, where we're 100% asking the questions that you sent in and making this event all about you and what your points of concern on. But to formally introduce today's guest, Rebecca is best known for her iconic morning after bag. She launched Rebecca Minkoff, her brand, in 2009. And since then, Rebecca has gone on to become an author, a mother, a podcast host, co-founder of Female Founder Collective and Female Founder Collective's many memberships. I got a lot of questions after the last event of how can we have more time with Rebecca. I wanted to make a note that you can actually schedule one-on-one time with her. She's an advisor on the North, which is Female Founder Collective's one-on-one advisory platform, where you can actually set up calls with vetted experts from the top companies around the globe. And one of our advisors is Rebecca Minkoff. So I dropped that link in the chat too. But I'm going to jump right in with our questions sent in by you. So if you hear a shout out or if you hear your name, say, hey, that question's from me in the chat. Also, I would love to know where everyone's joining us from. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Rebecca and I always love learning more about who's in the room. And I think that really helps too with how she forms her answers. But this first one, first I should say, welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me again. There will be no glitches, and it's going to be great because I'm not furiously trying to get home to be at my kid's game. And like I said, trying to balance life, sometimes you get, you know what happens.
Exactly. We're here. This first question is from Caitlin Stone, and that is, when you were starting out, what made Rebecca Minkoff stand out and break through? Was there a turning point or strategy that helped you cut through the noise and gain traction early?
Yeah, I think really early on, I understood that if I wanted to be a part of the zeitgeist of where things were going, then I had to be, well, I was that girl. I was a 26-year-old girl living in New York City, looking for love, having misadventures. And so when I named the bag the morning after bag, that was a catalyst. It was a conversation starter. When I put this little Vincent card in the bags, it was a screen grab of Gorby doll that I stole off the internet. Thankfully, I was never sued for it. I put it on a card, and then I hand wrote a phone number, or I had my intern handwrite a phone number, and then I had my friend who had a very deep, sexy French voice record phone, and we just created this mythical character. Like every girl should have a guy to call, and it got a lot of attention. Some good, some bad, some angry husbands. Definitely called that number wondering if their wives were cheating on them. So as we got more mature as a company, as we got more mature as a company, I did put the logo on the bottom. And I still get phone calls to this day because I never shut off the number. So I actually was messaging with someone earlier in the week. They're like, "Hey Vincent, why is your card in this bag?" And they bought the bag at a like a consignment store. And I was like, "It's an old marketing thing. And your bag is beautiful." The bag was 20 years old, by the way. So it was crazy to see that, and it was brand new, like never worn, brand new 20-year-old bag. So
Stop
it
it.
pops up every now and then.
I've known you for 5 years. I never heard this story before. It did not come up in my research about you. That is wild. We had Taylor from Cakes, who's like a social media expert and guru, and she's like, "There's got to be a little bit of controversy here and there," and like you
Yeah.
were onto that even before social, even if that wasn't your plan. Like that clearly sparked something. I love that. Okay, this next question is from Chelsea. And by the way, I love you all dropping your locations in the chat. We have people from Jamaica. We have people from Dubai. We have people from Georgia, Seattle, literally all over the globe.
Wow.
Joining us
Thank
today.
you all for tuning in, Dubai. That's like 3 in the morning right now.
Yeah, this is amazing. This next question is from Chelsea, and that's, I'm bootstrapping a bag brand and planning to launch with one color and material first. Based on your experience, what's the smartest order of production expansion? Should I go into more colors, new materials, or new styles?
I would first make sure that the one style that you have actually sells well. And if you find it selling well, then I would start iterating on that, doing different treatments, different design, different leathers, different colorways. It is okay to go slow. It's okay to build slow, because you don't want to get into a department store yet anyways. You want to build a really strong base of either direct to consumer and or boutiques. And those boutiques can also afford to move slow. So get it right before you keep iterating. And then when you do get it right, what we've done is our best-selling collection, we have two, is called Megan and Darren. We started with one style. We probably launched with 3, it went down to 1. And then as that one gained traction and got successful, we did a crossbody, a mini version, a tote version. And so once you've found success in that style, shrink it, make it a tote, and keep iterating on it, especially because in the beginning, you want people to understand what is your signature? What are they coming to you for? Is it, for me, it's the dog hook, it's the hardware and the tassels. So for you, making that iconography stick and be really, really visually forward facing is really critical, especially as you start out.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice no matter what industry you're in. If you're beauty, wellness, even if you're service, like having that signature, what are people going to you for, is so smart.
Yeah.
Next question is from Ashley Tran, and that is, can you talk more about made to order models and creative ways to start with low upfront capital? Great question. A lot of people in the room are bootstrapped.
Yep. So the one of the companies we used for our apparel for a small amount of time was called Resonance. They do Tucker, they do CS, Costello, CT. I'm blanking on the initials. It's these 2 designers, Costello, Taglia, Pietra, now have a menswear brand. They do a host of other designers. Nothing is made until the customer orders it. And so we did do that for clothing for a while. Where it got hard for us was we can't just we're not known as a print forward company. And everything we do apparel wise has like a stitch or a trim, and they couldn't do that at the time. It was really just, silhouettes that look great in print, like on silk or cotton, or, other basic silhouettes that don't need print on them. So they're great. They're out of the DR. They have a whole algorithm that helps you restock your things. The customer has to be educated. Like, you're going to wait 10 days to get this. It's not coming to you overnight. But it allows for very controllable scaling. And then knowing about these questions in advance, and I can't speak to any of the ones I'm going to recommend from here forward, but there are a couple of places that have low minimums, especially for streetwear type clothing. One is called Scott X Scott, and that's in Los Angeles off of Union Pacific Avenue. Hopefully you guys are writing this down. There's another one that's called Create Imprints on 47 West 28th Street. Gildan is another one. Independent Trading Co. is another one, and Shakaware. And then Bella and Canvas. So if you're looking, and then last one is Original Favorites. All of these I found online. Again, haven't tried them, but I think unless you're doing couture, go to 38th Street and start there, or something really complicated. But I would just say now more than ever, people are open to this pre-order model. So, I think the more you say, hey, I'm a designer just starting out, you like what you see, pre-order it. I'll give you a better price than when the stock comes in. Or I'll give you access, by pre-ordering, you get a signed, label, or you get to come see me in a fitting. Like, what can you offer to people that money can't buy that would give them something to share with others? And I think people, knowing they're supporting someone young and up and coming, are happy to do it. So I would say you can definitely fund your business on pre-order. Do your research on the company Comfort. They have scaled their business to 700 million on pre-orders with bootstrapping. So if anyone tells you it's not possible, they are like my new North Star of it's 100% possible. You just have to get smart about it.
So smart. I mean, I was just trying to think of some of those brands too. That's a really great example of that pre-order, that wait list model. And I'm seeing some questions coming in through the chat too. I'm going to get to those. I'm going to get to some that were submitted at RSVP. This next one is from Nicole, and that is, how did you start building the company? Did you have investors? Did you offer equity? What would you have done differently knowing what you know now? Can you you went in phases. So talk to us.
A lot of phases.
Yeah.
So originally it was just me. And then it was me with my brother, not officially as my co-founder, but as my phone call for help. Like, how do I make a bank account and what's a tax ID number? Then it was an intern who we paid, who is now an incredible female founder herself and part of our collective, from Anecdote, Laura. And then it was.
How was your intern? Anecdote is incredible, by the way. If you all need office supplies, I mean, they make my home office
beautiful,
luxurious. Yeah, so great.
Yeah. So it was all happening very slowly, and at the time, just to go back, into ancient history. No, direct to consumer is no such thing. E-commerce is no such thing. You just have boutiques and wholesale. And as we were scaling, it was financially getting harder and harder. So my brother began to put things on his Amex. He took out a mortgage on his house. We could not get approved for credit because we hadn't been around long enough. I think banks are very different now in terms of the risk they're willing to take. And I think it's a better environment for that. There was also no such thing as crowdfunding, which exists now. So our first then real financial sort of infusion came in the form of a factor. There's a factoring company called Rosenthal and Rosenthal. We still work with them. There's another company called Hilden, and they do purchase order financing. So depending on the industry you're in, it might not be suitable for you, but you get your purchase orders, they credit check that vendor, and then they from there go, good, we think they're going to pay, or they won't. We'll approve them and advance you 80% of the capital, and then we'll collect the funds. And so that was a very safe way of scaling. knowing every single one of our POs, we got, for the most part, 80% of it up front. Then when it got really crazy and we needed to add team members and our business was growing very quickly, we did decide at that time to take in capital. It was 7 years later in 2012. And so with that, we had specific reasons why. We wanted to build out stores. We wanted to, overhaul our e-commerce site. Again, so much of this doesn't need to be done today in the way that it did back then, but that was what we used the money for. And if I could do it again differently, I would do a lot differently.
Yeah.
We would have, done direct to consumer far sooner. I think we would have sold a bigger part of the company to a different partner when we had this amazing opportunity to work with a genius that we didn't take because we said, it can only get better from here. And you just never know. Like we had to go through a recession, 2 recessions, 2 rounds of tariffs, almost going out of business in COVID. So I look back at that little decision that we're like, there'll be more crazy offers. I probably would have sold then.
Yeah. I always enjoy you talking about fundraising because especially for consumer founders, I feel like it's almost like laissez-faire where like, you're going to raise capital and that's the only option and that's the only conversation sort of that we're having. But for a lot of people, that's either not realistic or not a goal.
Yeah.
Would you, for founders today, is there one thing where you're like, this is a specific scenario where I would recommend that you look at institutional capital? Because I know you don't recommend it in most cases.
I feel like you should take institutional capital when you have product market fit, you have heat around your product, and you see a clear path of what are these funds going to do? And am I ready to not be the only one in the driver's seat anymore? Because capital comes with constraints around who your board is. I think most people just think that the money is going to solve all these issues. And most PE firms have an exit within 7 years. And so they're in 7 years trying to optimize you and whatever it takes to grow you. And VCs, also want an exit outcome. So what if you want to do this for 20 years, 10 years? I think even in our conversations at Female Founder Collective, there's too much talk about wanting to exit. Like, what about just having a great business that provides a lifestyle for you and your family that makes you a lot of money, that makes generational wealth for your family, and that provides a great income and support for others? And I think everyone's hooked on money and getting it from people and hooked on, I have to sell. And so I'm trying to sort of be the differentiator in the conversation of you don't have to sell, build for long-term health and success. And that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's refreshing. I think, just as a founder, as someone who's aware of what's happening with other founders, when you're seeing all of this news of like Haley People are selling Rode and Alison are selling Poppy, it's like you kind of just get into this mindset of that's got to be the goal. But it's really not the only option. And you also mentioned purchase order financing through Rosenthal. I just wanted to plug this, that if you do join the 10th house, you will get access to Rosenthal in a private event with them. So really encourage you all to sign up for the 10th house. So you can get access. Okay, I want to shift gears, and we actually are naturally going there to selling in a social first world. Noelle St. Laurent asks, what trends in social media marketing are actually getting audiences engaged right now? And how can a brand find its unique voice?
Oh gosh, I feel like my whole feed is me trying to figure this out too. I'm seeing a lot of brands do like episodic content if you can afford it. I think there are affordable ways to do it if you're savvy and smart. But I think that that's probably the next way to get exposure because brands can't afford to integrate into TV or pay for advertising on a major scale. I think you're seeing a lot of, it doesn't work in all cases, but like just return to reality and ugly and nothing's perfect. And then founder first content. As I said it in an earlier session, if you think that as a founder, you get to hide behind the camera, you're wrong. Get comfortable with the camera, get comfortable with being talent, because I think that the rise of just founders as influencers is upon us, and people want to know who they're buying and what they stand for and know their story and see what vitamins they're taking. You know, I never thought as a designer, people would be like, what is your supplement routine? Well, people want to know. So, you know, if that creates a greater connection and a community, then I'm here for it. It is not lost on me that some people don't want to do that. So then you have to get really crafty of like, well, who is your spokesperson or who's your avatar that people can trust and buy into? So
Do you
sorry
think
for the bad news.
Yeah, I was going to say, which is perfect because Nina asked that specifically about like there's a lot of push about creating founder-led content, but she, you know, doesn't necessarily want to be overexposed or the only voice. Do you think it has to be a person for there to be that connection?
I personally feel that way. I think there's a couple of brands that can get away with it. Like I don't need a voice, a person to come from Nike, but they have enough spokespeople that you look up to that it sort of handles that, or a New Balance. I think when, you know, even like I give my son iron supplements, I want to know who the founder is, or who, if she's not part of it, who that doctor that's telling me why iron is great for my kid. Like I want to know that from the company, and I don't want to just be coming from company speak.
Yeah. So even let's say like you don't have a Nike budget, maybe it's user generated content, you know, or a smaller budget, you know, micro influencer content to sort of give that face, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, even Taylor from Cakes, you know, shared that they have a rotating group of influencers that they pay every month to make and post content. And so their grid is filled with UGC of people that they have said, we like your style, we like your vibe, plus Taylor, plus her sister. And so I'm even looking at who are people that I'm going to work with next year that maybe you've never heard of, but I love their style and I want them to be seen with the bags, and they're going to give us content for it. So I think that, and I need to spread from an age perspective. I need to go from 18 to like 60.
Yeah.
And so it's peppering in, depending on who your demo is, all those different spokespeople for all those different ages.
Mm-hmm. So true. And keep your questions coming in the chat, by the way. This next one is from Renita O. And that is, how does one scale a fashion business today with profitability first, not just fast growth? How can we prioritize profitability?
Your margin and the value for what you're selling and storytelling. You really, you know, making enough money in this industry is incredibly hard. I think at first you should understand with the factories you're working with, like, all right, I get that you're going to charge me $50 a top now because I'm ordering 25 units. But when I get to 1,000 units or 2,000 units, where is the price break that I can actually see where we're going to end up? So when we had our mini Mac, which we priced at $195, our margin was terrible. But we knew that when we hit 10,000 units, the price would get us to the margin we needed. And so we just took a bet that said, no one else has a bag for $195. So we're going to be that bag brand for this consumer. And sometimes you're crossing your fingers. And in our case, it worked. So you can also, I have a friend that had a bra company that she sold for 80 mil. And she partnered with her factory. You know, she was confident enough in the product and the white space that she was like, hey, I want you to be my 50-50 partner. And so right away, her pricing came way down because he was in on it too, and they could build and scale something really quickly. So I think you can come out of it from a couple of different ways.
Did you just see that? I don't know if it was Elf, but they released Rhodes P&L.
Yes.
With their margins were,
yes.
I mean, different industry, but wow, great margins there. Do you have any like standards as far as margins that people should shoot for?
In my industry, you want to aim to between, I mean, we're not even there yet, but like goals are 60 to 75%. We don't hit that. Apparel, you have a little bit more leeway with apparel. It's like the 75% range. But when you're making a leather bag, the you know, it's a different animal. And so our margins are lower than we'd like them to be. I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay. I love these questions. They're so great. This next one is from Leah F. And that is, how do you keep your brand relevant across different categories and licensing without losing integrity of the brand or diminishing its value? I want to start here, and then I want to pivot and talk a little bit about the licensing and partnerships that you've done.
Yep. So on the brand relevance side, I'm the idea lady that drives my team crazy. And I'm constantly thinking about how to maintain relevance. And I always talk about Madonna, like every album, she reinvented herself and maintained relevancy that way. So every activation we do is me going, okay, where is the world going? How do we be a part of that conversation? So whether it was launching our stadium bags, to some of the events we're going to be planning next year around different game opportunities, to I'm trying to think what else we did this year.
Wicked was Wicked this year.
Wicked was last year, so Wicked came out last year. So we were the only bag partner for that launch. Some opportunities come to me, and then other times I'm pitching people like a crazy person. So for your brand, where does it make sense? And I tell you, all of you from tuning all over the world, these don't have to cost a lot of money. Most of our activations as a brand are 5 figures or less oftentimes. And I think that if you can find great partners, like-minded partners, or sponsors in some cases, that makes it a lot easier. We've never had a big budget for these types of things. And so I guess now I'm used to that, and I make the dollars go a long way. As far, what was the second part of the question?
So without losing integrity of the brand or diminishing
the licensing.
Yep.
So when it comes to licensing, we are about to ship our first licensed product. We do have a lot of licenses. We embarked on that as a strategy this year. I believe we have 12 active licenses that through next year you'll see start to hit. It is constant communication. Me and my creative director, who's the left side of my brain, she's been with me for 19 years. We look at every single piece of product, and it is in our agreement that we get to say no when we feel like it is off brand or not working. There's obviously times when you have to come to a compromise on why does everyone need that item? Okay, it's a bestseller. Well, then I call it Rebecca Minkoff-ifying that product. And how do you make it more iconic for us and recognizable? And then it's also an education for me, like what sells at a certain price point in an industry that I've never been in before. So I'm learning a lot, but I think we're just trying to make sure, and as a brand, you can do this exercise. Like, what are your brand pillars? What do you stand for? When someone closes their eyes and hears X name, what does it mean to them? And we know what that means to our customer now. And so as long as I can look at a product and it has those marks on it, then I let it go into the world.
I love this. Orly said, I just did a collab with 4G and Michelle. We love Michelle Grant. She's amazing. She actually just did a workshop for 10th House members all about her blueprints and her framework. So it's not too late to get access to that, by the way, if you're a member. But
Michelle's the best.
Yes, Michelle's the best. Congratulations, Orly, on your collaboration with Michelle. Can we expect things outside of fashion coming up for you, like fashion industry? Like, could we expect to see you in beauty or in food in these like licensing partnerships situations?
My current fragrance partner does want to talk about beauty, but I am really crawling in that space. I have a very, very clear idea of why I would want to get into it and what I would offer. And I don't want to just slap my name on like, well, here's a full product line. Like I want to go into it very thoughtfully because the market is so oversaturated. So we're taking it very slow.
Yeah. All right. This next one is from Rox, and that is, you've built your brand through the rise of bloggers, Instagram, TikTok, and Web3. How do you decide when to chase a trend versus try to stay true to your DNA? Like, there's so many things up Substack, even like we talked about this at the net retreat, having someone from your brand specifically posting on Reddit. Like, there's so many different places you could be. How do you know where to spend your time?
I think you test it. You know, we tested Vine for a long time, and after 6 months and Vine not picking up, we were like, okay, we're done. You know, we tested Snapchat for a long time, and then I was like, I can't get there. If someone on the brand wants to take it and run with it, but at the time, and again, I don't know what Snap does these days, no offense to them, but like in terms of linking and reposting, I have no idea. But like to me, our user we know from surveys is on Instagram and TikTok. She's also on YouTube. She's also on Substack. She's also on LinkedIn. And so those are kind of the areas we focus on. And it's not like when you look at our landscape and our media matrix today, it can seem very overwhelming. Like someone could look at it and be like, how the F is she on LinkedIn, podcast, Substack, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all those things? Well, it didn't happen that way overnight. It was definitely like one platform, great, next. And then as you achieve success, you scale. And if it doesn't work after a while, then I say just leave it. It's not where your audience is. We talked about Twitter reviving it. I have 900,000 followers on Twitter and we don't really post there anymore. But we don't necessarily think that our customers is tuning into Twitter to hear 140 characters from me.
Yeah. And do you have different people running those different platforms, or do you have like a content person on the team who manages Substack and YouTube? Like you have them managing different platforms?
Right now I have one person that helps me manage my personal things that belong to me as a human, and then one person that manages the brand. So Substack is mine, my LinkedIn newsletter is mine, my podcast is mine. So I have someone for that, and then someone who does the brand's TikTok, the brand's Instagram, but they report to me. So I oversee it all anyways.
Right. And there's like a central voice still, even though it's maybe two different people managing. And this leads us perfectly into the next couple of questions from Maya and Stephanie, which are all about team building. And this one from Maya is, did you hire full-time employees in your first few years? I know you talked about your first intern, but what about past that? And then how did you keep them motivated when you couldn't pay them top-tier salaries?
So our first hires were, and I think it's a really good exercise to do, what are you terrible at? And what is not the best use of your time? Well, I was terrible at finances, at production, pricing the bags. So our first two hires was someone in production. My creative director, who at the time was just coming in to help me sketch. And I was like, I can't even hire you full time. What are you doing right now? She's like, I'm a waitress. And I was like, great. Can you work part-time and then you can still be a waitress? And she was like, yes. I was like, give me 3 months for us to ramp up. And then I just kept taking stock of what were we bad at? Where was the weakest link on the chain? And in the beginning, when you're building something, I think it's critical that you hire people that just can get something done. Not these like, oh, I just started a company. Let me bring in this high-tiered person from this big brand who's really expensive and is used to pushing paper around and hasn't had to roll their sleeves up. Like in the beginning, you want someone who's like, yeah, I'll go ship. I mean, the amount, like we would have days in the beginning where everyone, didn't matter what you did in the company, we'd all go uptown to the factory to ship the big orders. And no one was like, that's outside of my job description, or that's not in my scope of work. I'm so sorry. Like, no, that is not what you do in a growing company. And so I would look for those types of people. And then as you get bigger and you need some more sophistication, clearly you begin to hire for more experience. But I will say that every big executive that we've had, for the most part, when it came time for them to get dirty, they couldn't. And I think that's where a company can get stagnant. So make sure that the people you hire and for where you're at as a company are just willing to get scrappy, because you never know when you're going to go, in our case, from, you have 5 people, then 10, 20, 115, then 75, then 60, then 20, then 10, that person can, if they're really valuable, can span all of those phases and adapt. And then offer equity to those if you can, or a profit sharing agreement. With my creative director, I gave her equity because I didn't want to lose her. So I think you just figure out what works best for you. If you're uncertain, profit sharing is great because it doesn't mean that when they leave, they take it with them.
Yep.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah, we just had Elizabeth Stein on from Purely Elizabeth yesterday, and she had very similar uh, hiring tips that you did. Sabrina, I'm going to get to your AI question just after this one from Stephanie. Stephanie says, what advice do you have for scaling brands on how to find the right people? So you talked about how, like, what type of people they should be, different ways to keep them motivated, but where can we actually find them? Because she says, I'm getting these impressive emails, but then the performance doesn't match in a scrappy environment.
And it's for what role?
She didn't say which role, just how to find the right people. And yeah, the resume is not matching what they need in their scrappy environment.
I mean, I always think it's good before you offer someone a full-time role, you have them work with you on a project basis for a little bit. I think it's always good to pressure test someone and see what happens when like it gets kind of, we have like a deadline or a big deal coming up. And you can see how they handle it. Do they become monsters? Do they drop the ball? Do they say they're not available on nights and weekends during Thanksgiving, Black Friday sale? All the things that can happen. So I think everyone these days appreciates like, hey, I want to see if this works for you and me. And then I was interviewing Ara Katz from Seed yesterday for my podcast, and she wrote down how she manages people, and she shares that with them because she's like, I have a very different style of managing. And I want you to understand exactly how I work and how I react to things. Like I will be the person in the meeting redlining a document and not asking you to do some tweaks. And that might be offensive to you. Like just want to make sure we're clear. So I think also understanding how you work and then relaying that to the person is really key.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Completely agree. Okay, we're getting some follow-ups in the chat. One of them, because you mentioned equity, is there a normal range percentage of equity when it's an incentive for a great team member?
It's all over the place. It's anywhere from 0.5%, and that should vest. You never just give it right away. It's after X amount of years or X amount of performance to 3%.
Yeah.
Some companies do bigger. It really depends on the company, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have time for maybe 2-3 more questions. This one's from Sabrina, and that is, how are you using AI now to help your organization be more efficient? Are you doing anything on the, it sounds like, operation side or team side?
Yeah, so our team uses AI for all the reports that they need kind of generated into one dashboard because we have wholesale and direct to consumer sorting through, and they're different platforms, sorting through that data when we're looking at best performers, pricing, sale, all that. It sort of unites all of that. I use it when I'm iterating a design and I don't want to like bother the team with like, can you draw this? I'll just put it in chat. We generate copy from it sometimes. Sometimes I'll put in my PR strategy and I'll say, how do I optimize it and make it better? And so those are some of the things that we use it for. We should be using it for a lot more, to be honest. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of us probably are thinking that same thing. Like, we talked about this again at the net retreat, it being like a point solution situation and not integrated into the full company. And it's just, it takes time and money in a lot of cases. Okay, so 2 more questions for you. This one is from Alita, and that is, each time there was a pivotal turning point in your career, what grounded you and helped you make the right decisions?
Well, sometimes we made the wrong decisions. Pivotal moments. What grounded us? I think as long as you still have the original desire and purpose for why you started in the first place, that's always a good, thing to have. And if you lose that, either don't do your business anymore or see what you can do to get it back. Because I think it's more hard than it is. You get these stretches of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, followed by slogging through a lot of the time. And that is normal. And so getting used to that as normal, not some like Disney princess version of what it is like to be a female founder. And I think that when you do make the right decision, savor it and like soak up that moment, because sometimes they are few and far between. And I've just learned over the years that when you're working so hard towards something and then it happens and you've sort of blacked out all the way through because it was really hard, and then you get it and then it's over, you're like, oh, it's like a mirage to me, So I think now I'm like, let's savor all the nitty gritty, all the work it took to get to this place, because then once you've achieved it, then that's done. Then you made the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And there may be times where it's a mirage and you're like overwhelmed and you can't do that, but like as often as you can. Okay, we're going to end with a couple of rapid fire questions for you.
Yes.
And what you just said leads perfectly into this. What's a creative risk you're glad you took, even if it didn't work?
This was 2008, I want to say. Saks Fifth Avenue came to us and they said, we want you to launch a more expensive, higher priced line. And they were like, the world is your oyster, go. And we spent a lot of time, money, and heart and passion developing this line that when you get into Saks Fifth Avenue and the luxury customer is used to seeing Chanel, Burberry, right? And then me, they're like, wait, she's supposed to be in the affordable section. I'm not going to pay for this. So while that didn't work, because everything was $700 to $3,000 for a real ostrich bag, it was really, really fun. And I still love those bags. And I saved most of them. And it was really fun to play with really expensive, beautiful materials too.
Yeah. Ooh, we need to do like an auction of those. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Especially if they're limited edition. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, one product or campaign that best defines your brand today. So we started as Mab. Would you say that's still you're defining today?
Yeah, we didn't really have a campaign or campaigns. Well, I'll say this. At the beginning of I think it was must have been 2018. I was hellaciously pregnant and didn't want to do a fashion show. And finally, the women and gender equality conversations were at the forefront. I featured a bunch of non-models. They were activists, people in politics, and we shot them. And then we had a dinner, and then I forget who decided to put it up in Times Square, but a company for free, because they liked the mission of that so much, displayed the women in the items with who they were, and that was incredibly fun and exciting. Some of those people maybe I shouldn't have picked at the time, but at the time we were really excited about them.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Okay, last two rapid fire. What's one piece of advice you'd give to founders trying to build something that lasts 20 years from now?
Slow the F down, as Bobby Brown told all of us. When you are building something that you want to last 20 years, you need to build brand equity and trust, and you need to have profit built into this, and you need to be able to weather all the crazy storms like a tariff or a boat getting stuck in a canal and shipping containers going missing. And so it's okay to grow slower and more profitably, and I think that allows you a freedom to also be more creative. So we don't all have to have this overnight.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to unbrainwash yourself. We definitely went through periods where we're like, we have to grow it big now, go, go, go. And you end up making a lot of mistakes. And I just don't think it's worth it. So if you want to build something and sell in 3 years, different person, different advice.
Yep. Slow and steady. Sabrina says I'm in for an auction. I know, right? I want to. Final question for you is, what's next for the Rebecca Minkoff brand and Female Founder Collective?
So Female Founder Collective tickets are coming soon for Female Founders Day in March in 2026. So if you've not given us your email, you need to. We also have an amazing newsletter that if you have not given us your email, you should. We also have great advisors where you can get a lot of one-on-one advice about all this stuff. So go to findyournorth.co and join the 10th house, because again, these are usually closed door events, and we want to maximize and get you as granular as possible to get you to the next phase of your business. And as far as what's coming from me, I got to see my first samples of the eyewear yesterday. It's gorgeous, beautiful. That comes out in January, February, along with swim in March. And then a really fun game that I'm going to be designing something for that we're all going to get to play come summertime. So that's coming soon.
We all need to, like, my mind's, what is it? Is it Mahjong? Is it cricket?
It's not Monopoly. Okay.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm getting hearts in the chat. I'm getting thank yous in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone. And happy Friday. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Rebecca, bye.